All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the November edition of the Rabbi's Talmud class. And as usual, I'd like to mention that the class is sponsored by Ellen and George Sheeran, Nora and Jack Skiba, in memory of Harold Grill and the David Susser Trust. And as somebody suggested before, it's probably better if we all mute ourselves unless we are talking.
So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for tonight's class. And we will talk a little bit about miracles because of Hanukkah, but we will not concentrate on Hanukkah only. We will have the opportunity to address the subject in general. How does Judaism lead with the supernatural? This is the idea for tonight's encounter. And before we get to the sources, as usual, I prepared several sources for us to read together and to reflect on them. Before we get there, I would like to hear from you. Which are the miracles that you know, that you are aware of? When you hear the word miracles, what jumps to your mind? What is the images you have, Roberta, please, about miracles?
I think of the parting of the Red Sea.
Parting of the Red Sea. So we may say that this is a miracle par excellence, right? One miracle of the miracles, the splitting of the Red Sea. What else? Who else would like to contribute, Harold, with miracles? Harold?
Sorry. The oil in the Hanukkah lasting 8 days.
Okay, so apropos of Hanukkah, the oil of Hanukkah that was supposed to last one day only and lasted for 8 days. Thank you, Harold. Any additional miracle? Yes, Marty.
I would say miracle usually has a positive connotation, but I can give an example where it doesn't. That refers to an event that is unexplainable. Why a certain event, particularly a good event, or why it occurred, and nobody could come up with a good explanation for it.
Okay, so now you are not bringing an example of a miracle. You are trying to define. You are trying to say what is a miracle. What does the word miracle mean? And for you, miracle is positive, right?
Okay.
We are hearing someone's mic. I think it's Carol. Yes, I just muted Carol. So Marty, you are saying miracle is positive always, and it's which word did you use? Unexpected?
Usually it's sort of an unexpected. It may have been a hoped for, but not realistically expected.
Okay, so here we are trying to define. Before we get there, I would go around and see if people can cite some more miracles before we enter to the definition. Yes, please, Stephen.
As a typical parent, I'm going to say my children are miracles.
Why?
Why? Just because the joy they bring every day that I have them. When
so
they're around, I mean, especially after being here for a week, but just every day that my children are around brings joy and happiness to me. So to me, that's a miracle, a small miracle every day.
This is beautiful. This is very beautiful, and certainly we will get back to it when we read the sources. Thank you. Yes, Marty, is it the announcement? Is it a question? Or
no, it's a miracle. It's a big, important miracle. The existence of our wonderful state of Israel.
Okay, thank you. And we will get back to it also when we read the sources. So the existence of the state of Israel is a miracle. Thank you so much, Marty. Anyone else? Miracle? Okay, So the examples you brought touch in some of the subjects that we'll delve into in a short while. First question is a miracle always a collective experience, or sometimes also an individual one? So when Stephen Cried comes and says, "My children are a miracle," he's not talking about something that impacts the humanity or the Jewish people at large, but his familial experience in particular. We talked about miracles from the past. So when Roberta talked about this Red Sea, we are talking about the Bible, Exodus. So when Harold talks about Hanukkah, he's talking about a post-biblical miracle, because as you know, Hanukkah is not in the Bible. It's connected to something that happened after the time of the Torah. So, and finally, I want to refer to what Marty said, that miracle is always a positive thing. Does everyone, do you agree with the idea that miracle is always a positive thing, or can a miracle also be a negative thing? Yes, Marty.
Well, I don't think it's always necessarily positive, but I hate to put it in this term, but as an example, Hamas may be saying right now that it was a miracle that we could overcome the Israelis and do all the damage we did and what's going on now in the world. To them, it's a miracle. To us, we wouldn't call that a miracle. We call that various other things.
Okay, so someone's miracle may be someone else's curse, right?
Correct.
Like with the Egyptians, when we talk about splitting the Red Sea, for them it wasn't a good thing.
Correct.
So for us Jews, the people of Israel, it was a good thing. It was a miracle, but the very same experience or the very same manifestation meant a curse to the enslavers, right?
That's why I said it was predominantly a positive connotation, because usually the person who says something's a miracle is grateful that the event occurred.
Right. And you also said unexpected. So when Stephen Cried talks about his children, is it something unexpected?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but still a miracle, at least for him. Yes, Keith.
I would say the plagues in Egypt were also a miracle.
Right, the plagues in Egypt. This is another very good example of miracles. The book of Exodus is very full of miracles, right? We have a donkey that talks, among other things. Okay, so let's visit together the sources and try to dive together into the supernatural and the relationship between Judaism and the supernatural. So let me share with you some interesting things. Share screen. Miracles.
The miracle is you can put this stuff up on the computer.
Sorry, Harold?
It's a miracle that you can do this, showing the reading on the screen for everybody.
Yes, do you consider it a miracle?
Rabbi?
Actually,
Yes.
I would consider, or at least think about, the whole natural world is miraculous in that life exists, in that you know, chemicals and molecules and everything can combine and create our world.
So you are saying the existence of the world itself is a miracle,
Or the
The
universe.
way it operates.
or the universe.
Rabbi, can I
Yes,
just
sure,
Yeah.
Marty, please.
ask now, but I'd like to bookmark your use of the term supernatural.
Bookmark what? Sorry.
Bookmark your use of the word supernatural.
Right, that's what I was trying to get at, actually, Marty, that it doesn't, a miracle doesn't necessarily have to be supernatural.
Right.
Because when Stephen Cricht says my children is a miracle, it's not necessarily supernatural in terms of totally unexpected in biological terms. But as an experience for him, it brings him awe, right? Amazement. So sometimes we use the word miracles for things that cause us to be amazed, amazement, awe, right? Let's read the Talmud together in Masechet Brachot and see what we have there about miracles. Who will be our first reader?
I'll read.
Thank you so much, Cheryl.
For a miracle that occurs for the multitudes, we recite a blessing. But for a miracle that befalls an individual person, do we not recite a blessing?
So just a moment, I will stop you sometimes. Here, the Talmud is recognizing that there are two types of miracles. Miracles that occur for a group of people, for several people at the same time, for maybe a country, or a nation, or a religious group. So a group of people, a multitude, and there are miracles that occur for an individual in particular. Okay, thank you, Cheryl.
Wasn't there an incident where a certain man was walking along the right side of the Euphrates River when a lion attacked him? A miracle was performed for him and he was rescued. He came before Rava, who said to him, "Every time that you arrive there to the site of the miracle, recite the blessing, blessed who performed a miracle for me in this place."
Okay,
And
so this individual experienced a very personal miracle, a big one, and the rabbi instructed him every time that he comes to that very same place for him to say a blessing, blessed 3 points, meaning Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who performed a miracle for me in this place. So beautiful, a specific blessing for that specific person who experienced a miracle in that place. Perfect.
And once when Mar, son of Ravina, was walking in a valley of willows and was thirsty for water, a miracle was performed for him, and a spring of water was created for him, and he drank. Furthermore, once when Mar, son of Ravina, was walking in the marketplace of Mahoza, and a wild camel attacked him. The wall cracked open, he went inside it, and he was rescued.
This is a very lucky person, right?
Really?
Really, he was thirsty, the very same person. He was thirsty, and a spring of water was created for him, and when a camel, right, was chasing him. I've never heard about someone being chased by a camel, but probably it must be possible. The wall cracked just for him to go inside. Ever since
When he came to the reeds, he recited, "Blessed who performed a miracle for me in the reeds and with the camel." And when he came to the marketplace of Mahoza, he recited, "Blessed who performed a miracle for me with the camel and in the reeds, indicating that one recites a blessing even for a miracle that occurs to an individual.
Okay, so the point here is to prove that we do not only recite blessing for collective miracles.
Candy.
Someone has the mic. Oh, okay, Naomi. I just muted you, Naomi. So one just not just recite the blessing for a collective miracle like Hanukkah, but also for an individual miracle. Every time the person returns to that place where the miracle occurred, then the person is required to say a blessing, a bracha, in acknowledgement to the miracle that happened there. A little more, Cheryl?
Sure. The sages say, on a miracle performed on behalf of the multitudes, everyone is obligated to recite a blessing. On a miracle performed on behalf of an individual, only the individual is obligated to recite a blessing.
Which also makes sense. It wouldn't make a lot of sense for me to recite a blessing over the children of Stephen Cricht, right?
Correct.
Stephen Cricht is the one who is going to recite the blessing for the miracle of his children, and the same with someone who was saved when attacked by a lion, a camel, or thirsty, and that specific person will recite the blessing. And only when the miracle is collective for a multitude like Hanukkah, then we as a nation, as a people, will collectively say, She'asa nisim la'avoteinu bayamim ha'em bazman hazeh, the blessing that we are going to recite in a few days while lighting the Hanukkah. Great. So this is our first source. Thank you so much, Cheryl. Let us continue a little bit more. Brachot, still from the same tractate. Who wants to be the second reader? The second source is much shorter. Yes. Who, Stephen? And Sandy, I will keep you for the next.
Rav Yehuda said, in the name of Rav, 4 types of people are required to offer thanksgiving, the special blessing. 1, those who went to sea, or 2, traveled through the wilderness, or 3, became ill and was healed. Or 4, had been imprisoned and got free.
Okay, so I am on purpose. I'm not showing the following source because I want to ask you which blessing are they referring to here?
Okay, a special.
What types of people are required to offer thanksgiving with a special blessing? Those who went to sea, traveled through the wilderness, became ill and was healed, or had been imprisoned and got free. Which blessing these people is going to recite? One that we know.
Bench Gomel?
Yes, Birkat Gomel, right, Birkat Gomel, Gomel bench. So we are talking about Birkat Gomel. Those are the 4 traditional cases that one would be required to recite Birkat Gomel for. Those who went to sea and obviously came back, returned safely from the sea, traveled through the wilderness, which was very, very dangerous. Now we learned that it was also dangerous because of the camel danger, became ill and was healed, or had been imprisoned and got free. Yes, Marty.
Yeah, why isn't been imprisoned and got free? Why would that be a blessing? They obviously were in prison, let's assume, for something they did wrong. So why are we reciting a blessing?
Okay,
Got out.
Here I understand that we are talking not about our own prisons, our Jewish prisons. We are talking about someone who was captive with the enemy.
Oh.
So we are talking
doesn't
about
say that.
the hostages situation.
Okay, thank you.
And the chances were that this person would never return. So if the person returns, comes back, the person should say a blessing. So here we are not talking about Jewish people in Jewish prisons. We are
Thank
talking
you.
about
Thank you.
war captives. Okay. So here we are talking about a life-threatening situation, a life-threatening crisis that someone overcame, and then the person is thanking God for being free or for being able to come back from the sea or from the wilderness or from a very severe sickness. Is this what we call an individual miracle? What's the difference between those four cases and an individual miracle? Or are they individual miracles? How would you describe those four cases? And what's the difference between them and what we called till now as individual miracle? So I think they are individual miracle. Yes, Yossi.
You answered. I wanted to say that those are individual miracles because the experience is of an individual. While if you look at the miracle of crossing the Red Sea, has an impact on a nation. So those are two separate miracles. The same thing with their life. On Hanukkah, it affected again, a nation, not only an individual. But here it's describing individual experience. Somebody who went from a bad situation to a very good situation. So this is why you say, Agome, you are thankful for this change, for this miracle.
Yes.
And I can
agree.
Really can identify with it.
I agree with you, Yossi. Yes. Norman.
But I'm not sure that makes it a miracle. You referred before, Rabbi, to supernatural and so on, so that the splitting of the Red Sea or the plagues or whatever, something that's not normally expected. If somebody becomes ill and we put them on the Meshaberach list and they get better, maybe that's because they're on the Meshaberach list and we pray to God for it. But that doesn't seem to me to be a miracle. In my mind, there is something supernatural about a miracle compared to just something good that happens, possibly because we prayed, but not necessarily.
Okay, so
can I?
So much, Norman. Yes, Yossi.
I want to argue the case because a miracle is a big change from the negative to the positive. So the fact that I had a very bad cancer and I'm alive today, from my point of view, it's a miracle because the probability of dying was very high. So this is a miracle. Whether or not the supernatural intervene, it's a different story. I can believe in it. And I say, oh, thank you, God. You saved me. So it depends on my attitude. If I look at the hostages who come in every day, what is it? Is it a miracle? Oh, definitely it's a miracle. They Satan, an evil entity, took them away. So they are free, And the fact that we intervene in the freedom, I mean, people around it, it's a miracle. I mean, the army could decide not to intervene, and then nothing would have happened. So what I'm trying to say, the supernatural comes to play when we want it to play in the event. You can say that crossing the Red Sea or parting the Red Sea was a miracle that was done by the supernatural. You can't explain it. However, scientists today can explain parts of it in terms of a definition of where did they really cross and what happened. So I think the definition depends on how we perceive it, how we feel about it.
Okay.
So
Miracle, we
I
have
agree with Yossi and with Norman that the line is not that clear.
Yes.
So what an individual considers to be a miracle, another individual may come and say, you know what, it's not a miracle. So it's not that clear. You may say that someone coming back from the sea is not a miracle, or someone coming back from the wilderness is not a miracle. But they consider it so dangerous, so life-threatening, that it was classified as something that at least you must be thankful for, and you must go to the synagogue and to say a specific blessing. But the line is not clear, Norman. Someone who has a 35% of chance to survive a disease and survives, is this a miracle or not?
The miracle is the medicine.
And if it's not 35, is 38, 42, 57, where we draw the line? Where does it start being a miracle? Just if it's 5% or less, or if it's zero chance and the person survives. So it's difficult to draw this line. I think we are experiencing a very emotional situation with the return of the hostages.
Yes.
In Israel, and we would jump quickly and say it's obviously a miracle that those hostages are returning, are coming back home. But someone could come and say, you know what, it's not a miracle. In a war, some people die and some people survive. Those are the ones who survived, and the others are the ones who died. It's not a miracle. It's the outcome of a war. Any given war has survivors and people left behind. So it's not that clear, and it's very, very personal also. It's very connected to a personal experience. When Stephen Cricht says, my children are miracles, some people may argue and say, Stephen, they are great, but they are not miracle. So miracle is connected to a very, very emotional and personal experience.
Well, could you
as just a moment, Marty, as a group, as a nation, we recognize some events as miracle because we were told so. So we were told that the splitting of the Red Sea or the Sea of Reeds was a miracle, and we accepted that the lights of Hanukkah was a miracle, and we accepted. So there are some miracles that we were told that they were miracles, and we just accept them and we take them for granted. But as regarding to the new events, one can always say it's wonderful, but not necessarily a miracle. But an individual that is very connected emotionally to what is happening will say it's a miracle. Yes, Marty, and then we need to move to the
Yeah,
next.
would you count medicine, the medicines that were able to heal the person? The development of the medicines, and many of them are miracles.
I agree. I think the vaccines that were developed so quickly during the pandemic and saved so many lives was a miracle. It was a miracle.
That's enough.
But some people may say, you know what, it's not miracle, it's science. It will,
Insulin is a miracle.
it will depend a lot on your set of beliefs. And if you, right, if you are more Cartesian, rational person, you tend to say miracles don't exist. Everything is an outcome of science, of logics. Some of them we don't understand, we don't know how to explain. Still, they are not miracles. So it all depends on your faith and your relationship with the supernatural. Okay, so let's advance a little bit. Number 3 is the Birkat HaGomel itself, the blessing we say when we survive a life-threatening crisis. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who bestows good on the unworthy, who has bestowed on me much good. And the congregation responds, Amen. May the one who bestowed much good on you continue to bestow on you much good, Selah. This is the blessing that we say in the synagogue when someone survives a life-threatening crisis. Let's go to the number 4, to Yoma, and then we will continue a little bit. Who is the next reader? Maybe Sandy.
Okay, actually, I raised my hand because I'll be happy to read, but I did have a question. Is it okay if I ask you the question on the very first item that we read?
Yes.
Yes?
Sure.
Okay, so it said, a miracle performed on behalf of the multitudes, everyone is obligated to recite a blessing, but if it's for an individual, then only that individual, something along those lines is required to recite. So I was wondering how the release of the hostages from Gaza, would that be considered on behalf of the multitudes?
Yes.
Because we all are concerned, or would that be on the for an individual?
This is an excellent question. And obviously there is no one single answer, only there are different ways to answer. I would say the following. I don't know if you all agree, but I would say the following. The release of a specific hostage is a miracle for him or her and their family. But the release of the hostages in general is a miracle for the Jewish people, for the Jewish nation. So the fact that we are able to bring people back abducted by the terrorist group Hamas, when we know all of them could be murdered, I think this is a miracle. This is a miracle for the Jewish people in general. But the release of Maya, the specific child, the specific woman, the specific, then that is a miracle for their family in particular. So this is what I think, but I'm totally open to different interpretations. Yes, Yossi.
I agree with you, Rabbi, very much. In fact, as an Israeli, each individual is a miracle for the nation. And you can see it when they come back, the Israeli nation stands by them. And everybody talks about them. And they want to give them a hug and a kiss. So it's a miracle for the nation. Yes, it's also for the individual, but it's a big miracle that they're alive. Because the Israelis realize with whom they are dealing. So everyone who comes out alive is a miracle. The other concept, which is very interesting, Rabbi, and Sandy brought it out so beautifully. In Israel, we never leave anyone behind, even not the dead. So when we bring them home, for us, it's a miracle that we'll be able to take them home, even the dead. It's a very interesting concept. And this is why we can go to war, we can go to fight, because we know the miracle of Israel is that they don't leave anyone behind, that everyone belongs to each other, and we have the possibility of saving them. And this is really an amazing belief. Otherwise, I tell you, I mean, what you saw now, the way the Israeli army went to Gaza, it's amazing. Don't think it's not amazing. It's unbelievable. I fought in '67, and I thought it was a miracle. When I saw what they did in Gaza, I said, wow, it's unbelievable. They came together. When you see fathers and sons whose relatives were murdered or kidnapped and they still went to fight, isn't this a miracle? So I agree with Martin when he said the state of Israel, when it established, was a miracle. Martin, the whole people of Israel is a miracle. It's unbelievable. So anyhow, this is what I think, Rabbi.
Yes, we are stubborn. Number 4, Sandy, please.
Yeah, Yoma 29a:4. Rabbi Asi said, why was Esther likened to the dawn? It is to tell you, just as the dawn is the conclusion of the entire night, so too Esther was the conclusion of all miracles performed for the entire Jewish people.
So why did I bring this source? Because it says something interesting that we might disagree with. Esther was the conclusion of all miracles performed for the entire Jewish people. So it looks like this source in the Talmud is trying to sustain that the last miracle that happened to the Jewish people was the story of Purim. The story of Purim, according to this specific opinion, to Rabbi Asi, according to that specific opinion, the story of Purim comes to close the era of miracles. We have no more miracles after Esther, after the story of Purim. And you will see that the Gemara itself challenges this affirmation. Let's read the next one, Yoma number 5. Who would like to read for us? Yes, thank you, Hannah.
The Gemara asks, but isn't there the miracle of Hanukkah, which was performed many years later? The Gemara answers, it is true that additional miracles were performed after the miracle of Purim. However, it is with regard to miracles for which permission was granted to write them in the Bible that we are saying that the miracle of Purim was the last one.
So the Gemara comes and challenges this affirmation and says, it's how do you come and say that Esther is the last miracle? After all, we know that Hanukkah was also a miracle, as Harold reminded us, and Hanukkah comes several years after Purim. The story of Hanukkah takes place several years after the story of Purim. So Purim cannot be the last miracle of the Jewish people, because we still have at least one additional miracle, Hanukkah. Hanukkah is a miracle that occurs after Purim. And then the Gemara makes a differentiation between Purim and Hanukkah. However, it is with regard to miracles for which permission was granted to write them in the Bible, that we are saying that the miracle of Purim was the last one. So Purim is considered to be the last miracle registered in the Bible, because Hanukkah, as you know, does not have a book in the Bible. Purim has a book in the Bible, the book of Esther, Megillat Esther. What is the book of Hanukkah in the Bible? There is no book of Hanukkah in the Bible. Actually, there is a political explanation for us not to have a Hanukkah book, because there were two books that were excluded from the Bible. Sefer HaMaccabim, the books of the Maccabees, they were taken out. When we read the Christian Old Testament, we find there the book of Maccabim, the book of Maccabees. But because of a political dispute between two strong groups, Jewish groups, Hashmonaim and Tzadukim, because of the dispute between the priests, the Kohanim, and those who believed in rabbinical leadership, they decided to take this book out of the Bible. So with regard to the books that are in the Bible, the story of Esther is the last miracle. But it does not mean that there are not miracles after Esther. There are miracles after Esther, but they are not registered. They are not written. They did not deserve a book for their own in the Jewish Bible. And one of these miracles is the state of Israel that we mentioned before. And there was a discussion, a conversation, a debate on whether the state of Israel is a miracle or not, and if we should have a holiday for the state of Israel, and if we should say Hallel and read from the Torah on that day. It was a big debate. For those who believe that miracles are just the ones that appear in the Bible, or the ones that are considered to be miracle by the classic Jewish literature, the state of Israel may not be a miracle. But for those who believe in an ongoing revelation, and that we are allowed, and not only allowed, maybe required, to add holidays, to add sacred dates to the ones established by our ancestors. Yom Ha'atzmaut, for sure, is a very holy, important day, and a religious day, not only a civic celebration. It's also a religious celebration, not less important than Hanukkah or Purim, or even Pesach, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. It's a full holiday. Yes, Norman.
I remember Rabbi Wormflesh telling us that there was no miracle of the oil burning for 8 days, that the reason Hanukkah was 8 days was because after the Maccabees took back the temple, the last holiday that they had missed was Sukkot, and Sukkot is 8 days, and that's why Hanukkah is 8 days. But there was no, and this is like being told there's no Santa Claus. There was no miracle of the oil burning for 8 days, according to Rabbi Warflash. What's your belief?
So what do I believe? So I do believe that all of the miracles that were told for us, including the splitting of the Red Sea and the 10 plagues and Hanukkah and Esther and etc., they are grounded on some historical evidence, but they are also enriched by an oral tradition that made it much more interesting to tell and about. So I think every miracle that we read about is a mixture of two things, of some historical background, as Rabbi Warmflash recognized that the Maccabees and the temple and some story existed, but the miracle of the light that lasted for 8 days might have been a Jewish legend, as all of the other Jewish legends, not only this one, and the crossing of the Red Sea and the 10 plagues and so on and so forth. If you ask me if I believe that the Jews were slaves to the Egyptians, yes. But if I believe that every detail on the Exodus story is historical with capital H, I would say no. It's the way that the Jews transmitted the story and made it interesting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So let's read the number 6, please. Who would like to read for us? Maybe Yossi, this is a good one for you.
There is no doubt that this day, 5 layer set by the government and the members of the Knesset who represent the majority of the population and the majority of the great rabbis to celebrate in all the land as a memorial to the miracle of our salvation and freedom. It is a mitzvah to make it into a day of rejoicing, as on a holiday, and to say Hallel. And even a community in one city or a few individuals who establish a holiday for themselves in commemoration of a miracle that was done to them are obligated to maintain that holiday for themselves and for their descendants in future generations for all time. And even if one goes to a new city, is obligated to celebrate that day. Wow.
So Yom Ha'atzmaut, according to the Israeli Chief Rabbinic Council, is a holiday. It is a full holiday with Hallel and with religious ritual observance. But it was not accepted by the Jewish people in general. There are ultra-Orthodox Jews that don't recognize the state of Israel, and there are ultra-Orthodox Jews who recognize the state of Israel, but do not recognize Yom Ha'atzmaut as a Jewish holiday, as a Jewish festival. If you go to Beit Chabad calendar, you will not find Yom Ha'atzmaut. Yom Ha'atzmaut don't appear, it's not present. It does not show in the Beit Chabad calendar. For Beit Chabad, Yom Ha'atzmaut is not a Jewish religious holiday. despite the fact that the Israeli Chief Rabbinic Council, as we read here, established Yom Ha'atzmaut as a Jewish holiday. So again, what one considered to be a miracle, not necessarily everyone considers to be a miracle. And it's still a dispute amongst the Jewish people if Yom Ha'atzmaut is a holiday and if the establishment of the State of Israel is a miracle. We, as a Zionist congregation, we do believe that Yom Ha'atzmaut is a holiday, and we celebrate it here at the congregation with Hallel, with the full holiday program. But it's not the case for every single congregation. Any comment or question here before we get to the last few sources? We will read Abraham Yoshua Heschel and then Albert Einstein, and then we will be done. So who would like to read for us Heschel? Someone who haven't read, maybe? No, Roberta, please read Heschel for us.
Abraham Heschel, God in Search of Man, A Philosophy of Judaism. Among the many things that religious tradition holds in store for us is a legacy of wonder. The surest way to suppress our ability to understand the meaning of God and the importance of worship is to take things for granted. Indifference to the sublime wonder of living is the root of sin.
So what is Heschel saying to us? That the amazement, this feeling of wonder, is the most basic, important religious drive that prevents us from committing sin. Recognizing the importance of life and being amazed every day again and again by life itself. It's the most important religious obligation. Heschel would come to a lecture and would open the lecture saying the following: a miracle just happened. And everyone would wonder, what is he referring to? And Heschel would say, the sun has set. A miracle just happened. So every sunset, every sunrise was considered to be a miracle for Heschel. And just to conclude with a quote by Albert Einstein, there are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle, which is beautiful, strong, and we may or may not agree. Because if you consider everything to be a miracle, somehow you are saying that nothing is a miracle. Because if the miracle is the unusual, unexpected, out of order, supernatural, saying that everything is a miracle is a little bit dangerous, because then you start saying that nothing is a miracle. Your final thoughts before we say goodbye. So I'll take this opportunity.
Rabbi,
Yes.
as I understand it, what it really means is that we cannot take anything for granted.
Right.
We have to enjoy life.
Right.
Fullest.
Right.
So
Mhm.
that's what I'm trying to tell Norman. When we have the minyan every day and we have 10 people, it's a miracle.
Mhm.
Right?
Yes.
It's a miracle. There are 10 people who decided to come on their free will because they want to come. It is exciting. It's a miracle.
Right. The miracle didn't happen this morning.
No.
Rabbi, it happened at the Big Bang. And
Yes.
everything since then.
Since then is a miracle. Beautiful, Marty. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Rabbi.